Well, good afternoon, crafters, knitters, crocheters, any kind of yarn makers, any kind of paper crafters, any wine drinkers, or just somebody that wants to follow a video. So today I have been making boxes paper boxes, because I am working on a project that requires 500 3-inch granny squares. So in order to kind of like always have one going in a box or in a tote bag or whatever with me, these yarn skeins, because I'm doing it in all cotton, always say pull from the outside. Now, to me, that's kind of different and weird. I don't like that. I want to pull it from the center so that it just gradually collapses. Now, I know sometimes when you get toward the end, it might knot up and things like that. So I wasn't sure why it says pull from the center, other than it might have something to do with the way the yarn is woven. So, trying not to stretch it or change it, since it is very, very soft, I use my ball winder and wind them up, and so that I can still pull it. Even though I'm taking it off of here from the outside, it's going to wind it so that is going to be a self pull from the inside. Because I wanted to have something sort of like this, something that I could take the wound up ball and stick it in. Well, of course, if you get these for yarn size projects, they're expensive. They're too expensive. I don't care about spending that much for this project. So I thought, well, I'll just wind up my balls and stick them in a box. So I thought I would make, because I have to have 7 colors for this project. So I'm going to make 7 boxes that I can wind up my cake, as they call it, once it's wound up, and keep them in individual boxes. Then when I want to grab my knitting bag or my crochet bag, whatever you want to call it, my crafting bag, I can just take a couple of these and stick them over in it, stick the hook in here with it, and I'm run out the door. And they don't get all messed up. They don't come all undone or get squished or wompy jawed. Wompy jawed. That's a nice southern term. So today I'm going to show you how I made the boxes, in case it's something you want to make boxes. I've got other tutorials about making boxes, and I've got several patterns on my Cricut page. I've been making mine with the Cricut, but you can make a box completely manual, whether you even have any kind of scoring board, anything. You can make them completely from scratch. But we're going to start out right now today just making one with the paper that I cut with the Cricut. Now, if you have a Cricut, down below this video in the description, there will be a link to a shared file where you can make a 4-inch by 3 3/8 inch box. So today I'm trying out a few new things. I've got some tools here so you can see. If you don't have a Cricut, you can use a Stampin' Up. Well, they're called memory. We are memory makers or keepers. Um, and what it does is just a copy of what Stampin' Up used to have. It probably was the memory maker people first, who knows? But it's a box maker. They have envelope makers and box makers, and they have scoreboards. Today I'm going to be using my Stampin' Up one because that's the one I have out and I know how to use it. The memory We Are Memories looks exactly like this. It's just different colors. I will have a link below the video, linking where you can purchase one if you want to. They're 20 something dollars. Oh, and a scoreboard. If you don't have that, you can make it with a scoreboard. And I'll link that below also. And if you want to make it completely manual, then you're going to have a few more tools. You're going to need a ruler, some sort of stylus to score with. You can use the back side of a butter knife if you don't have a stylus. You can use I've seen people I've seen them actually take their crochet hook and use it, or the point of a knitting needle, and use it to score with. It's just you have to be careful. You don't want to tear the paper. You're going to also need, even no matter which project you're making, you're going to need glue or tape. Today I'm just going to use tape because it's quicker. I don't have to wait for the glue to dry. And you're going to need a pair of snips, maybe even a big pair of scissors, depending on which project you're making. You're going to need some cardstock. Now, for my boxes, I use Basil paper cardstock. I think this piece is a Stampin' Up piece, but this is just for demonstration. But when I make my actual boxes, I use Basil paper because it's heavy duty and it folds real well and cuts real well the Cricut. If you're going to be doing this completely by hand, I suggest something like the Stampin' Up paper because it's just slightly thinner and it's smooth and it's easier to score because it is not textured. But any of them will work. If you don't have 12 by 12 paper, you can actually make it out of 8.5 by 11. So I can show you all those measurements also. They'll also be in the description below. So first I'm going to start off with the box itself. Now the insert part, and I'll show you what that looks like. It looks like this once it's done right here. And it's going to hold a dowel. Now, if you don't want to have to say, oh, God, I got to go get a dowel. No, you don't have to. You can make one out of paper. So this is a 5/8 inch dowel. And I just had one handy. So I just used it to make my, see how far around my template to hold this would be. But I'm not necessarily using that. I actually made my dowel or my spindle out of paper. And I'll show you how I did that also. So let's get started. And you also might need a Kit Kat and a glass of wine because that's what I have to keep me going. So that's yummy. First thing I'm going to do, because this is my box I cut with the Cricut. So if you use my pattern and cut the Cricut, this is what you're going to have to do first. It's going to make a little cut line right here like this. So I'm just going to extend that to the edge because you know your Cricut will not cut 12 by 12 paper. Unless it's just one side of it, because it only cuts 11.5 by 11.5 standard, unless you have the long mat, and then the long mat's still not going to cut but one side 12 by 12. So I'm just cutting out these. This is where my marks are I cut the triangle so I know where to trim my paper off. I'm just cutting these on through to the edge, just like that. This slide right here has a little slit, so you want to make sure you just cut it where the slit is, like that. And the other side's just to cut along the triangle. And this side, just like that. One more here and here. Oops. All the way to the corner and all the way to the corner. We'll see how this paper works. I haven't used this Stampin' Up type paper in a long time. Get all my little clippings out of the way. All right, now what we're going to do is start folding the paper. So this is cut on the diagonal. If you do it by hand, it'll be cut straight up and down. It won't be cut on the diagonal of the paper, and you won't be able to make the box but a 4 by about 3 1/4. I'm just going to find all of our score lines just like that. And here, got the little, this is the sides. Okay, now there is a score line here, 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 and here. These are the corners. And instead of cutting away and having just a raw edge, I like to always just fold in my paper so I have like a reinforced part, and that always makes the box stronger. So what we want to do is just kind of see if we can fold these in just a little bit. I'm going to go back and put some tape on there and stick them down, but right now we're just working on getting it gently folded. We don't want to mess up our bottom. Try to fold those sides to where the sides match up right there. Press it down inside and get those all pre-folded before we start sticking anything. Just make sure your outside edges line up. And if you're using this pattern, they should line up perfectly. If it cuts correctly on your Cricut, it should line up on the sides right there just perfectly. Okay, now they're all ready to be folded in like this. This is how the box is going to get folded up, just like that. So instead of using glue today to wait for it to dry, I'm just going to use some tape. So I'm going to put tape here, here, here. And put all your tape on first, because once you start to fold up a side, you won't be able to put it up flat again. So while it's a flat surface, that's the time to glue and put tape. Or I almost forgot how to use a tape runner. I don't hardly tape anything anymore. I use glue most of the time. I'm so used to making 3D structures. Okay, so now we got our tape there, so we're going to fold it back up so our outside matches. Always start with the outside so you can see, make sure that it's in the right place. And then just stick it briefly. We'll go back and press them all down inside. That lined up. Stuck just a little bit. This one lined up. Stuck just a little bit. And this one. Okay. Then we're just going to fold this out of the way. Fold that down. Fold this down. And see how it is in there? We want to make sure this is squished together. And we want to make sure they're nice and flat. So just put your hand in there and rub them down flat. Get them stuck together. Stuck together. Okay. Now, you see how I folded one here, 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 and here, like that. So we need something to make this stick to this. So I'm going to put just a little bit of tape here and press this down. So I'm going to put tape on each side that's going to be pressed down to the sides. So put some tape just right. It doesn't take much because the top's going to hold it in. So you just do that, put some tape there. And then some on this side. And press it down. Oops, see, that wasn't enough tape on there. I'm so used to using glue. Put some tape on that one. And tape on this one. So many years of Stampin' Up! And making cards and using tape. Got out of the habit of glue, but now I'm back in the habit of using glue all the time. And if you do want to use glue, I recommend this. I Barely Art. I use this all the time. Or you can use tacky glue. If you have to use Aleene's because real tacky glue is too expensive. Okay, so then now we're going to take our tape or glue and we're going to put all around this edge here. When you actually use glue, what you're doing is kind of it's sort of like using cement on a brick. It makes another little layer of thickness or support, you might say. Okay, and that should fold over nice and neatly if it's cut with the Cricut. And then down here, 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 some there, fold it over. Especially you want to make sure you get some tape on the point right there so that it stays stuck down in there. You don't want anything that's going to like grab your yarn or pull your cake undone. Or you can use these boxes for anything. I have lots of tutorials out there for boxes. This is the same basic function with a lid. So, and if you want to make those kind and make a lid, then when you're all through with your craft project or your yarn project, you can just use them for something else. Put somebody's gift in it and give it away. Okay. Now, all pressed down in there, all stuck. Ta-da! And that's all there is to making a box with the Cricut Design Space. Now, I'll show you how this thing works. If you purchase one of these and you want to make a box. Now, my thing is it has the directions on here as to what size to have your paper. So if you're going to do a 4x4x4 box, 12x12 is the paper, and you just use the extra large scoring lines. Okay, I don't want it 4 inches deep. That's a little bit too deep. So I have determined that if you just take a mark or I got a piece of washi tape here, and you move over about 3/8, just over 1/4 of an inch. Here, I'll tell you exactly what it is. From the extra large line, it's about It's 1/4 inch plus a 1/16. So there you go. So that's what? Almost 3/8. But put a piece of tape there. Then you can use your 12 by 12 paper. Now, your paper has to be exactly 12 by 12. And if you have one of these sheets, like this one, which has this white border thing on it, you need to make sure that white border gets cut off before you start this project, because your paper needs to be exactly square. So what you do, this is how this punch thing works. You line it up, and I'm going to go ahead and line it up with my mark here, so I'm just not wasting a piece of paper. Normally, if you want it just to be 4 by 4 by 4, you're going to line it up to this XL line. If you want it 4 by 4 by 3 1/4, you're going to have to trim your paper off an inch. It's going to have to be 11 by 11. Okay, so I'm just going to put this up to this line. And what you do, it comes with a little tool stored inside, a little secret compartment. So you're going to line it up with your, where it tells you to line it up, right there. Now, the way this thing works is you put this stylus thing into this hole, and it goes this way or it goes that way. And if you put it right up against the side here like you're supposed to, and the memory maker people, I think, have a video on how to use the machine. You're going to put it right there, and you're just going to score down in the ditch. There's a ditch there. And this is a ditch that goes all the way down here. So I'm going to come this way and score just like that. Now, I'm not going to do the diagonal, because if I do the XL diagonal, it's not going to be in the right place. And I'll show you how to do that later. But before you move your paper, you go ahead and punch out the corner, just like that. Okay, and then you take your paper and you turn it 90 degrees. Line it back up. Put the pen or the stylus in there, and the stylus in there, and score all the way down. And punch. Okay, turn the paper 90 degrees. Line it up with the mark. And put the stick in here, score. The stick in here, and score all the way to the bottom. And punch it out. Turn it 90 degrees. And again, score on the XL line, the XL line, and punch. Okay, now you need a punch and a diagonal line. So what we want to do, can you see? I don't know if you can see the score lines in there, the dents. This is a dent maker, it makes dents. But you got to get this punched also. So I have found that the easiest way to do that is just to turn the paper over and line it up where it goes here. You don't need to do any scoring. All you have to do is punch it. Just turn it over, line it up with where you had scored to, like that, and like that. It should come out just right if your paper is perfectly square. Okay. Now what this didn't do was make our diagonal line here, and I think you can bring it over, and I think the actual measurement is going to be where the large line is. If you line it up where it's supposed to go and do the XL, like this is the XL line, if you line up here on XL, I think you'll find out that this is in the right place. Not the measurement we used with our tape, but the actual line that they tell you is the correct line. So I'm going to put it right there on XL, and I think it will come out just right, and it does, to make this center section, because it's a 6-inch, half of the sheet of paper is 6 inches. So I think that this always just knows what the half of the sheet is. So I'm going to do this and this, and line it up with XL right there. That's that. And that's that. Now this is a pretty quick process compared to setting up your Cricut, getting a mat out, getting your paper out. This is a pretty quick process with this board. So I do recommend this. If you have one, use it. If you don't and you want to spend the 20 something dollars at Amazon, you can buy you one. And it is a pretty quick process, and it does make a very fine box, and it makes several sizes. These are the centimeters, or I'll call it the British side of the chart, and this is the American measurements. Okay, and again, we're just going to fold our parts in, and it's going to be the same process. Folding in the sides, folding in the corners, folding down these triangles. It goes together all the same way. It's just the difference of how the box was actually cut. Everything else about it is basically the same. You don't have to do any trimming in the corners like we had to do with the Cricut, because this thing will do 12 inches. And once you get your score lines folded, and I've also found this. This is another little trick. To me, it's easier to fold the paper, because the paper wants to fold to the right side, is to fold it to the outside first, like that, so that all of them basically are getting folded like the same direction. And then it's just easier then just to push it in, because it's already bruised the paper. So all you're doing is going to put it together just like the other one. So all that gets folded in, folded in. I don't have enough hands. I need a helper. It's going to go together the same way. And this one's nice because it has these nice little curved notches like that. So the whole box is going to go together just like we did the other. It's just how the box was cut. So there you go. So it goes together the same way, just like that. And it's also the same size. This was 4. This comes out to be, oh, this one comes out a little bit larger than 4, excuse me. So it comes out just a little bit larger than 4, and it's right at 3 and about 3.5 inches. But it's a little bit over 4 inches. So it comes out just a little bit larger using the scoreboard. But now you can read the directions here, and you can come up with your own depth and whatever you want. You may not want this big a box. You may want to have smaller little cakes for your yarn. Or you might want to use the boxes for something completely different. This box is made with this punching tool, and it is 2.5 deep, and it is 4 inches square. And I used, I guess, this one right here, 4 by 4 by 2.5. So that's how that's done with the punch board. Okay. Now your other option is, if you don't have a punch board, but you have a scoreboard, you can just do the box manually. And how that is done, and I'll give you these measurements in the description below, is you're going to take your piece, your 12 by 12 paper. Let's move this out of the way. Your 12 by 12 paper, and you're going to score it at 3/4 of an inch, 4 inches, 8 inches, and 11 1/4. So that gives you a 3/4 inch margin here and here, a 4 inch, a 3 inch section, a 4 inch section, and a 3 inch section, just like that. And then you're going to turn your paper, and that has to be cut off, of course. But it'll be scored at the same places. Let me turn it this way, since that white stuff there. You're going to score it again, 3/4, 4, 8, 11 1/4. Same thing. And then you're going to take your scissors, and you're going to cut this part out and this part out, just like that. And you're going to cut out this side, this side, this side, and this side. Trim all this off. And that's going to give you this much lip to fold over into the inside. Same thing here, fold over to the inside. And again, you're going to just like we did before, you're going to have to, either if you don't have the diagonal thing that goes on here to do a diagonal score, you're just going to take it off your scorer, use your ruler, use your stylus or your butter knife or your small crochet hook. I'd say it'd probably take about a 2 millimeter, the back side of a 2 millimeter crochet hook. And you're going to score down to here. Do not score over the middle. You don't want to score over the middle. So make sure like the ball of your stylus is on the line. Same thing here, just line it up with your stylus because all styluses are different thicknesses, plus your crochet hooks too. But you want to make sure it gets scored on that line. And the same thing's going to happen. You're going to cut this away and you're going to cut across here and fold that in. And it'll make the same kind of box as long as you're using a heavy enough paper. Okay, so you can make it completely by hand. If you don't have a scoreboard, again, you're just going to use your ruler and make sure that you can't line up your ruler right on the line. You got to line up your ruler so that the stylus is on the line. You can score it by hand just like that. And using a stylus or your crochet hook or knitting needle will give you about the same result there. It might be a little bit different in folding, but it'll be pretty close. You'll be able to do it. And when I'm doing scoring by hand, I always score on the wrong side of the paper. That's just because sometimes it will kind of mess up. Now, if you're using a scoreboard, like what we're using there, you can use it on the right side and it'll work perfectly fine. This is not, I forgot, I've lost the one that goes with this. I don't know what happened. I don't have it lost it. I'm sure it's somewhere here. But see how that scores right in the ditch and makes it easy to fold. But if you're doing it by hand with a ruler, I suggest doing it on the back. Okay? And same way, the box will go together the exact same way. The only difference in all of these is just the cutting, okay, and scoring. Now that we got our box made, we want to make this little part. So if you don't have a Cricut, all you need to do is have a piece of cardstock that is 1 5/8 by 2 1/2. And you're going to score up from one side 1/4 of an inch and score up from the other side at the 1/2 inch mark. So this is scored here 1/2 inch and this side 1/4 inch, just like that. And then you're going to take your scissors on that 1/4 inch side and you're just going to snip out little snips. Now you don't have to make little triangles like this if you're doing it all by hand. You're using the Cricut, of course, it's going to cut this just like this for you. And it's going to also score it right here for you, along with a little cut there. So this is the first little part you want to make. And what I'm going to do is take this tool here, since I don't have my bone folder in here, and I'm going to do like this to make it start curling around. I want it to start forming a circle, just like that. You can use your edge of your big scissors, something like that. Just be careful, don't cut your paper. All right. Now, I'm going to use this dowel just because it's easier than trying to roll it up and get the right measurement. I know this will be the right measurement because this is a 5/8 inch dowel. So, or you can make a bigger hole. You make a bigger post. If you have a wooden spoon in your kitchen, just make it that size. So wrap it around. You want to see about how far it goes. So what I'm going to do, because I'm going to hold this out, and I'm just, again, I can use my glue, but today I'm just going to use some Scotch tape. But first, I want to fold this part over because I want that inside, and that's going to make it a little bit thicker inside, just like that. So I'll do just like that, and you can put the tape around there like that. Now I'm going to take this piece here and I'm going to trim it off just where it wraps around. Okay. Yeah, see, this does better if it's glued. I don't want it to move. Okay, we're not gonna use that. We're gonna have to put some glue in there or some tape. You take that back off. Yeah, it just doesn't hold quite as well. Tape doesn't. It can't hold it in place inside. Let's just do another one because that's too. I don't have time. I don't have the patience for that right now. Okay, so got our fold line right there. I've already notched it. Ignore this piece. The pattern doesn't have that in it. Okay, this was actually something for another project, and I just thought I'd use it for this, and it works. Okay, make it curl up. Like that. And I'm going to glue this down. You could put some tape, or you could do the tape runner right here. I'm just going to put glue because it's quicker. I've gotten so used to glue, it's just easier. Okay, now we're going to wrap that around. Okay, so it's going to go to right there. Now you can take your pencil and make a line there. You want it real precision. And then I'm going to open it back up. And right here where the line is going to be, this folded over part, I'm just going to trim that off. So it won't be too thick there because I'm going to fold this inside. All right, so I'm going to put some glue there. Wrap this around. Fold that up. Okay. Hold it for a minute. And then it can have tape now because it's got glue inside, but you could wrap it with Scotch tape right there. Okay, slide it off. I'm going to put glue on this little tab and fold it over to the inside where I had cut it away. Because the overlapping area, you don't want it to be, thicker than what your stick is. Or your homemade stick. Okay, fold those back. All right, now, if you have made your circles by hand and used your die cut or a punch, this is a 5/8 inch hole, and I'm just doing circles. You don't have to do circles, you can cut squares. And I'm going to put it over the top like that. You can see I'm using a lot of scraps of paper because it doesn't matter what color it is. Just like that. I'm going to put some glue around there and then push that down and get that stuck. Holding it just like that. And this is going to have 3 pieces or so because I want it to be nice and firm on the bottom of the box. So I'm just going to glue this circle. To another circle, just like that. Never ask for information about a loan or anything of such nature on the internet, because you'll get 1,000 phone calls. Okay. All right, so that's stuck. That's stuck. Just like that. Now I'm going to glue this whole piece. I'm going to glue down on top of it a square that has the same hole. Maybe it doesn't have the same hole. It's supposed to have the same hole, but I don't think that one does. But it doesn't have to be on the top. It can be on the bottom. Take this and glue it to a square. The pattern is the correct size on the Cricut. Now I'll see if I can line that up right in the middle, approximately. Okay. Just like that. And then this, of course, just goes into the bottom of the box. Now, I glued mine down inside the box. You don't have to glue it down if you don't want to, but I glued mine in there permanently. And now, if you want to not have to buy a dowel, this is 5/8. You see, it fits in there snugly. You can actually make a paper dowel. And how you make a paper dowel is I cut a 12-inch piece of paper that is not as thick as cardstock. It's about 60 pounds. And I'm going to take my scrubber board or whatever you would call this thing from Cricut. You can use a ruler, you can use a spatula, you can use the side of your table. And all I'm going to do is just make it curl up to get it started. Like that. Hold it down. And then if you pull your paper straight up, it'll really curl it up. Just like that. Now, once I got it started to curl up, I'm going to take a pencil. Walk away for a minute and get a pencil. And I'm going to start rolling it around this pencil. And you can put it in the hole, let it unfurl. You can say, okay, that is right in the right place. And all you have to do then is just run your piece of Scotch tape right down this side, and you've got a homemade paper dowel. Just like that. Easy peasy. When you get your cake all wound up from your winding device, or by hand, you can do them by hand. The way I do it is I take the box and I press this part down to where the machine is holding the little end piece of thread and push it on there, and then just pick the whole thing up. Or if it's wound neatly and pretty tight, if you've done it by hand, you can actually just take the cake, and there's your stick inside, and just there's your hole in your cake, and just stick it over it, push it down gently, and there's your end, and it just pulls right out. And then you've got a nice little carrying box. Your yarn doesn't get dirty, nothing gets tangled up. So that's what today's lesson is about, making boxes. And I just happen to be using it for my yarn. So if you have any questions, you can ask them below. And I hope you're happy crafting, or happy crocheting, or happy knitting. And I'll see you next time. Cheers!